Why you can't just get over trauma. I'm going to talk about trauma today and the science behind it. Have you ever been told just to get over it and move on after experiencing something traumatic? If so, you'll know that it's not as simple as that. Trauma isn't just a bad memory that heals over time or something that you can choose to forget. It's a complex issue that affects both the body and the mind. It does so in very profound ways. So first of all, what is trauma? Trauma is more than just a psychological event. It's a biological response to something that's deeply distressing and that overwhelms your ability to cope. It can result from a single life-threatening event or from a prolonged exposure to chronic stressors such as abuse, neglect, illness, or systematic oppression. It's important to note that trauma is subjective. What's traumatic for one person may not be for another. It depends on factors such as your personal history, your support systems, family, friends, and your natural neurobiological resilience. How trauma affects the brain. When you experience trauma, several key areas of your brain are impacted. Firstly, a part of the brain I've spoken about and mentioned several times before, particularly in certain infographics I've done, but the amygdala. This is often referred to as the brain's fear centre. It becomes hyperactive, which is why trauma sufferers can feel extremely anxious or on edge even when there's no immediate threat or danger. Next, there's the hippocampus. This is what forms and retrieves your memories. It actually shrinks as a response to trauma, and this affects how your memories are stored. It's why people with trauma often experience fragmented, distorted, intrusive memories of the event, and why they may recall things that didn't actually happen, or forget certain parts of what did happen. Lastly, the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of the brain that is responsible for rational thinking and decision making. It shrinks and has reduced activity in trauma sufferers, and that makes it difficult for them to regulate their emotions, to be able to concentrate, make decisions, particularly in stressful situations. Now, trauma doesn't just affect the mind, it profoundly affects the body in several ways. When we experience trauma, our body's natural flight, fight or freeze response is activated. This results in a release of stress hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline. In trauma survivors, the stress response can become chronically activated even when the immediate event has passed. So once the threat or danger has been removed, the level of anxiety, fear, and stress continues. It leads to a range of physical symptoms, including muscle tension, chronic pain, digestive issues, irritable bowel syndrome, for example, and particularly fatigue. That's about as much I can think of right now for the body. So okay, why can't you just get over it? Well, it's not about willpower or simply forgetting. It's about understanding the trauma, the experience, processing it, and rewiring your thoughts. Now, that's possible due to the concept of neuroplasticity. That's the brain's ability to form new neural connections and it means with appropriate treatment, healing is possible. Through neuroplasticity, you can literally rewire your brain to think differently, to learn new skills. So, evidence-based therapies for trauma. So the first one we're going to discuss is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or EMDR. This is a therapy that helps rewire the brain, or the brain's response to traumatic memories, by stimulating both sides of the brain, usually through guided eye movements. Again, if you want to look that up, Google EMDR. The next one I'm going to discuss, you'll probably already be familiar with. It's something I've spoken about before. It's something I've done infographics about before. It's my go-to method in response to many neurosis conditions, and I've had it myself. I've had to have it myself for various reasons I won't go into. But CBT, this helps you identify and change unhelpful thought patterns and processes and behaviours associated with your trauma, and it helps change your thought process into something more positive. It helps make your behaviours more productive and positive. Finally, somatic therapies. So this is a focus on releasing trauma stored in the body's nervous system. It helps restore a sense of safety and physical awareness. There's varying kinds, so you may want to look that up. Somatic therapies. So that's more body related. That's body related rather than thought related. So then we have mind-body approaches. These are practices such as mindfulness, which again I've done infographics on before and spoken about before. Practices such as yoga and breathe work can be beneficial. They help cultivate a sense of embodiment. They reduce your anxiety. It improves your emotional regulation. Self-compassion. Self-compassion is important. It's crucial to trauma recovery. It involves recognising that the suffering you're going through is part of the human experience. Treating yourself with the same care that you would a friend, family member, loved one is vitally important. We give ourselves far more criticism in these traumatic situations, and look down on ourselves a lot more than what we would in somebody else. So with all that in mind, in conclusion, healing from trauma is a complex process that requires a multi-dimensional approach. It's not about getting over it. It's about understanding, processing and rewiring. With the right support and interventions, it's possible to move towards resilience and recovery. Remember, if you are struggling with trauma, you're not alone and it's not your fault. It's common, it's quite normal, and seeking professional help is not a sign of weakness, it's actually a strength. And your journey to healing starts with understanding and having compassion for yourself. So if you are struggling with trauma for whatever reason, however big or small you think it is, or you think other people will think it is, I implore you to seek the help that you need. With that, I bid you an adieu, and I'll take my leave and wish you a pleasant evening.